Okay, now I am unmuted, and hello, colleagues. Nice to meet you. I'm happy to welcome you on our panel discussion. My name is Andrei Ivanov, and I will be your host today. Today, I want to talk with you about our career in testing and myths around it. Besides that, I want to highlight that we have a possibility to ask questions to our speakers today. And don't hesitate and drop some questions for them. And I will address this question to our guest in the end of our panel discussion. Let me introduce our guest. Our first guest is Svetlana Stogny, quality architect. Svetlana, what is the nature of your job?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be on this stage. I'm a quality architect, and my areas of expertise are software testing processes, quality assessments, and pre-sales. I am so passionate about balancing business needs and outcomes and still remaining a trustworthy quality custodian. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. Our next guest is Anton Prokhorchik, quality engineering manager. Anton, what is about you?
Hi all, hi Andrei. What's about me? So I've been working in testing discipline for more than 10 years already, and I guess my main focus is test automation for the gods of the test automation.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Anton. And our next guest, Katerina Shepeleva, quality engineering manager. Katerina, how do you feel your job?
Yeah, hello everyone. So for several years, I work as a test manager and I'm also dealing with accessibility testing, currently in a role of head of accessibility competency center.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Katerina. Our next guest is Valery Yatsinovich, solution architect. Valery,
Hi everyone.
what's about you?
My primary focus is test automation. I have experience in a variety of tools and technologies from backend to front end. For example, during a couple last years, I was focused on test automation of data quality checks for cloud-based applications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Valery. And our next guest is Olga Shakhnovich, quality engineering manager. Olga, what actually do you do?
Hi everyone, hi Andrei. Actually, I'm test manager on one of our big scale accounts, and also I'm quality engineering practice head for one of our brand new locations. So yeah, that's about me.
Sounds amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, let's start our panel discussion. And probably the most popular myth that testing is a monkey job. Do you agree with that?
Andrei, I think I could comment on this one, as I believe accessibility testing, which I'm dealing with, is a good example of why testing is not a monkey job.
Accessibility testing, what is that?
So it is a part of usability testing, which helps to ensure that people with various physical or mental disorders can still use the product, fulfill its main purpose. And this is related not only to software, but to everything, basically.
So I am correctly understand that it is specific kind of testing for a small group of people. But what about principle of Pareto when we have to create, have to do less and get the biggest profit in that case?
Mm-hmm. I would probably disagree with you here because, as I mentioned, accessibility is related to usability, and by making the product more accessible, we also make it more usable in general. That is why more people would actually benefit from this. And let's imagine the situation that you are standing in the street, it is raining, you have a heavy bag in one hand, a smartphone in another hand, you are trying to hold an umbrella with your shoulder, and at the same time, you're trying to call a taxi from a mobile application. And let's imagine that application is asking too many questions about some additional services, whether you want them to be included or not. Also, maybe the button that you need to tap to call a taxi is placed too high or too low. And considering all the circumstances, it is very uncomfortable for you to tap that button. And for you, this situation is temporary. You are just in these conditions at this point of time. But there are people in the world with various physical disorders, for example, arm tremor. And for them, such situations when it is hard for them to tap on the button, to place an order, to order food from the mobile application, it is like a permanent case. And this is the example of how people would be actually benefiting from making applications accessible. But let's also discuss a case from business. One of our clients once shared a story that they were contacted by legal representatives, and they were asked to put their website down till they will make it fully accessible. Of course, such cases are not frequent. It is more like an exception, but still this may happen. And that is why, even if you believe that only a small group of people will benefit from considering accessibility during your development, which I personally disagree with, anyway, considering that it is a legal requirement, you still need to think of accessibility when you are producing a product.
Okay, now I understand. It sounds very interesting. But actually, what do you do every day? Or what is the nature of the job?
So there are a lot of things that should be verified in the context of accessibility. For example, color contrast. It's a ratio between the color of the text and the color of the background. It should be high enough so that people with various visual disorders could still read the text. For example, when people have color blindness or a low vision. Also, there are people who cannot use mouse. They use only keyboard for navigating through the applications. And that is why all the main elements, which are crucial for the main purpose of the website, should be keyboard navigable. Another thing, people who have low or no vision, they work with special tools called screen readers, and we as testers also use them. These tools pronounce everything what is happening on the screen, so that even without seeing some text, they could still understand what is expected from them to perform some actions. And considering that this is a legal requirement to ensure that nothing important is missed, we work with special checklists, which are a part of accessibility industry standards.
Oh, I have a question here. So you said that you're following some industry standards. So it means that your checks are mostly the same from one application to another, or at least very similar. So maybe it's possible to automate all these checks and run them for different applications. What do you think?
So it would be great to automate most of our checks, because you are right, many of them are similar from case to case, from product to product. But unfortunately, only small part of those checks can be fully automated and could be checked with tools only. We once collected the statistics, and we came to the conclusion that only about 10% of checks can be done with just tools, because many items are pretty subjective. For example, how understandable text is, because it is one of the requirements from industry standards that for people with various mental disorders, text should still be understandable and meaningful. Yeah, we do have to perform a lot of checks manually anyway.
Okay, it sounds interesting, and looks like that it's not a monkey job and just not a clicking by button.
Yeah, I agree here. Now it may sound that really we are working with checklists only, but in reality it is not like that, and we do have to perform a lot of non-trivial activities and be creative enough. I can talk about accessibility for hours, but we do not have that much time today. But even without talking about all the checks, still it's like an additional opportunity for you to learn some additional skills to broaden or deepen your T-shape development for testers. And even not speaking about all of this, still to confirm that testing is not a monkey job, with an example of accessibility, I can say that by performing accessibility testing, you are contributing to social responsibility and some good mission, because you help to ensure that groups of users who are often forgotten, they would still be able to work with the application that you are working on.
Mhm.
Yeah, speaking about the mission, I would actually like to mention one of the examples. So one of my recent assignments included testing of the Makeup Assistant application for visually impaired people. The idea behind the app is to make kind of smart mirror out of your mobile device and help users with various impairments to evaluate makeup application accuracy. And this was achieved by a combination of dialogues, haptics, and visual features, and apart from like more, I guess, common verification of UI elements, the test team also checked speech recognition, for example, voice reproduction, and also took crucial part in the UAT session, like with actual users. And I mean, it might sound a bit flashy, but during the project, I saw like tears of joy when one of the users heard like, "Your lipstick looks fabulous," after she fixed her makeup using app recommendations.
Yeah, sounds
Great
very
story.
great. Yeah, but in case of accessibility, I think if the topic will be interesting to our auditory, probably we will create another speech probably on the next conference about accessibility only, Kate. So okay, thank you
idea.
very much for for that answers. And in general, I see that accessibility testing something looks like a modern concept about T-shape career, T-shape self-development, and just one brick in the multiple skills with which consists our testing in general. Also, we have another myth, probably about the next brick of that wall of testing. It is about test automation, and the most popular myth about test automation is that it is just a step in a career from manual testing to developer. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. So that's one of the most popular myths nowadays, because people often consider test automation as an intermediate step toward their career in software development. People tend to think they can improve skills doing test automation tasks just because they are simpler there. But that's not really correct. Test automation is a separate discipline which can be considered as a branch in software development. And as in the development, there could be different tasks, very simple, routine ones, or another one which bring any challenges, and a lot of challenges here. So, for example, in order to build successful test automation, you must know basics like algorithms, software design patterns, principles, and so on. You need to understand multi-threading and concurrency in order to make tests efficient. You need to know how to do memory management to optimize, for example, your infrastructure costs. You need to know to understand how to dig into performance of your test, and even sometimes you need to do profiling of them in order to make them again effective. If you are talking about true challenges, imagine a situation when you need to create automated tests for the application with event-driven architecture. In this case, I would say the development of the system may be even easier than testing, because we're accustomed to work with synchronous and sequential processes. But in this example, we are facing with asynchrony and the chaos a bit. So I would say that it's not correct to consider test automation as a light version of software development.
Okay, understand. But generally, what is the reason to go into the test automation if you can join to a development group? Probably because of the most interesting task. Probably because you can feel that you create something valuable for customers, for your users as a developer, but the job of test automation is hidden from another guys, and of course because of salary.
It really depends on your personal preferences. Someone wants to be engaged in the backend and would like to do not work with UI at all. Someone else can't imagine his or her work without visual representation of their results in the browser or on the mobile device. The same for test automation. People feel themselves kind of magicians when they see a machine performing routine operations in fully automated mode and at high speed. Some people consider this type of work very inspiring. Also, the toolset for test automation includes a number of technologies and utilities which are not used for software development, but these tools may be used for another interesting routine operation that you may use on the daily basis. And as for salary, I guess that's a question of how much value you bring to your company, and I believe valuable specialists are rewarded accordingly.
Yeah, it should be honest, I think. Okay, so as I correctly understand, that test automation guys have their own tool set, and it don't need to use any development tools, probably except the programming language. That is correct information?
Actually, I would say there is some intersection with developers toolset. Test automation engineers reuse a set of libraries, for example, for unit testing to manage execution of auto tests. Also, a variety of frameworks, for example, for data management, for parallelization, and so on, are often reused. But at the same time, yes, the number of test automation tools is high. For example, for web UI test automation, most likely will be used Selenium, which may be completely unknown to regular developers. If you need to create Autotest for mobile applications, you might use Appium. For web services, you will probably want to use some service virtualization tooling. So there is partial intersection here.
Okay, but once again about tools, am I correctly understand that all tools for test automation are exist, and you just need to learn all of them, probably for the middle level, and in that case, you're done. You are at least senior test automation engineer. That is correct understanding.
Good catch. So some people consider test automation as a static set of tools you need to learn to become a valuable specialist. But again, it's not real correct. The market is very alive, and the old leaders are losing their positions because of new effective tools appear. Let's take Selenium as example. It was a leader for dozens of years, but today we have Puppeteer, Playwright, Cypress, which are competing and bringing new solutions and enhancements in this area regularly. So Selenium is not a true leader anymore. And also see how fast technologies are evolving. For example, we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, blockchain, and now try to imagine how can you test it and how can you create automated tests for systems built on these technologies. So there are a lot of challenges here, and it's not really, I would say that's not really correct to say that if you learn some tools you can stop and you don't need to do anything. In order to be demanded specialist, you still need to learn new tools and invent new tools on your own.
Yeah, in addition to what Valery just mentioned regarding inventing part, test automation guys can sometimes even play the role of like mechanical and even electrical engineers. So for example, the goal of the previous project was to develop both hardware and software for a transport system, which should connect different medical devices within client's automated laboratory. And on this project, test team designed, built, and extended physical test stands, like really moving things, and selected hardware components and developed specialized software to control this stuff.
Okay, this sounds very interesting. I see that Anton is our examples here today.
Yeah.
He is silent all the questions, and in the end of our meet, he jump in on stage and trying to provide a lot of examples. Thank you very much.
You will hear more from me, I guess.
Probably. Okay. Let's make the small break here and ask the first question that comes from our auditory. It's a question about accessibility testing. Being, for example, a person without visual impairment, how do you test if the website has the right colors or contrast? Are there any tool for that? And also testing if the button is too high or too low, or it is more about your feeling or some experience, or you can use some tools in that case.
Yeah, so probably there's a question to me. So for color contrast, definitely there are tools exist which help us to calculate that. And there is a specific number that is expected to be a result of this ratio between text color and background color. And the industry standards that I mentioned, the most popular one is called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or like WCAG. And there is in this standard a specific number mentioned that is expected to be like as a result of this color contrast calculation. So we are not checking that manually. We are using tools for that. And speaking about position of the buttons, for example, there are specific design best practices, and designers should also be involved into accessibility process, not only testers or developers. So they need to know how to properly position all the elements, because as I mentioned, accessibility is not only about accessibility but also about usability. So yeah, they are considering that, and no specific tools here, but some recommendations from the same WCAG standard also exist. So you can definitely get acquainted with this standard if you are interested in accessibility. There are a lot of useful details.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer, Katerina. And I have one more question to Valery. You mentioned that Selenium is not a leader tool anymore, but what makes a tool the leader? Perhaps for some it is a still leader tool because it's easier to use for someone who just started test automation. What is your opinion on that?
So I think in general speaking, Selenium is still in the leader group because still a lot of projects, even starting projects, will consider using Selenium because of some of key features. But if we think about starting automation, let's say 10 years ago, we didn't have any other tools on the market. So we had only Selenium. So it was kind of single leader here. But nowadays we have a lot of competitors, and if we start this automation, we will think also, for example, about Playwright. It might be covering our needs better than Selenium. For example, proxying features, the ability to intercept some requests. The same for other competitors like Cypress with better reporting, for example, Puppeteer, which is also competing in this market. So it's not like a single leader, but a lot of competitors now here.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. I'm also thinking that Selenium probably is the most popular tools still, and probably something like 10 years ago, I also started my career with that tool in test automation. Yeah, so let's go to our next myth, and this is about testers and business. Testers are far from business. What do you think about that?
I think that's a myth, but not the truth, and here is why. Challenging COVID-19 years have shown the necessity of digital transformation in all the industries all over the globe. Companies are looking not only for IT solutions, but for empowering business. And actually, in rare cases, we know for sure what is under the hood of client needs. But in most cases, we need people with a quality architecture skill set to step in and propose the solution, what can be done as quick wins, what will require additional efforts, and evaluate the number of actions needed.
Sounds pretty, but generally, what do you mean under the digital transformation?
Well, probably I have a bright example here, and let me share this. And in the beginning of 2020, when pandemic times just started, one of our clients, it's a royal family from Eastern country. So they asked EPAM to help them to create the solution which would help to transform offline educational process into online one. And this should have been a powerful adaptive platform which should consider all the specifics of the location, like local traditions, local laws, and client was engaged literally in every single feature, every single step or approval. And okay, to make a long story short, EPAM helped to develop and integrate the online educational platform instead of regular offline schools on the countrywide level. And such processes, they are called digital transformation, and such processes are happening in almost every business or non-commercial organizations or social institutions. So it's very popular story today.
Yeah, but I think online education is a modern trend because of
Exactly.
COVID times. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good example. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and returning to our myth, I can also share one example. So testers are far from business. I can explain probably on also accessibility example how it was not like that. Yes, sorry, again, accessibility. So one of our clients recently shared a story that they were about to sign a contract with a partner, but on this partner side, there was a requirement that all of their partnering companies should be considering accessibility during their development process. And this client came to us with a request to perform accessibility activities for them, because without that, they wouldn't be able to prolong their business, to expand it, and to sign these additional contracts. So usually when we are performing our testing activities, we do not always understand how these particular actions affect global business. But here it was pretty obvious for us that really without our testing, client wouldn't be able to expand their business.
Sounds interesting.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, one more example, I think. Yeah, okay, go
Yes, I
ahead.
think these are really great examples of how people from testing empower business. Actually, yes, I have additional proof that the myth we are talking about is just a myth. I have worked in a testing competency center for the last 3 years. And quality architects here are always involved in assessments when client asks to help them propose solutions for resolving issues related to poor quality or long time to market or probably huge reward. Probably you would ask
Okay, yeah,
what quality assessment is, right?
yeah, because probably I don't know anything about wire of testing and the business. What assessment is that?
Okay, so in short, each QA assessment is a journey to transform available inputs and business goals into valuable deliverables for clients and to help them to resolve their problems, of course, with the help of EPAM expertise and practices.
So you have, as I correctly understand, you have a specific guide which you have to follow to make the specific steps to understand the current quality level of the project. But I don't see any creativity in that process. It's just routine doing that, and nothing interesting. That is
You
true.
know, no man ever steps in the same river twice. Of course, we try to mitigate and predict everything in advance, but situations are incredible sometimes, and that is why we do love our job. When you do a QA assessment, you don't have a single source of truth. That is why you might bring together information from different sources to understand the real state. For example, when I was doing an assessment, the dev lead said that they have API tests, but we didn't find any in the framework, and no one from other stakeholders could show us this test. During another assessment, the local QA manager described us a beautiful picture of perfectly structured agile process at the kickoff meeting. And later, it turned out that the team still needed to have iterations defined. Can you imagine? On another assessment, the local QA manager described that our goal for assessment is to find the evidence against an offshore QA manager. But of course, we always remain professionals and rely on facts, but not emotions. So I would say unawareness plus fantasy, this is a super challenging mix. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
While telling all these stories, yes, one other myth came to my mind. I often hear that testing is fun not only from business but from creativity. But actually, guys, I strongly believe testers bring unique creativity, problem-solving skills, and exploring testing mindset. Do you agree?
Of course.
Looks like a silent acceptor, so you're not sure. You also mentioned some specific things RFP, yeah? What is that? Probably I am the
Yes.
stupidest host for today.
Being quality architects, we need to respond to RFP.
Yeah, but what is that?
Okay, RFP or request for proposal. Each day, several requests come to a PAM from potential clients, and there is no one unique and correct answer. All you have is a dozen of slides where you need to describe why your company is the best. And guys, it requires huge creativity. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm. So, what generally it looks like that our myth has to be reverted in the case. So testers are far from engineering, because I see that you do a lot of stuff related to the documentation, presentation, talking with the customers, making them proposals, and so on and so forth. Looks like that you're just working with books.
Oh no, I think that is another myth, because without engineering mindset, you would never build an effective test strategy. You would never evaluate different tools to choose the best. You would never develop a POC. But of course, to be honest, if the task is to create some enterprise-based solution, we would work with solution architects and test automation.
Yeah, I agree here. So, like working in collaboration with quality architects and maybe with some other engineers, we can cover all aspects of the quality, and we can be sure that we can build a solid strategy for enterprise solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. But generally, I have to go to another myth. It's about test managers, but at the same time, you make a lot of advices to your customers to make some specific work around the project. But who will implement that, and what is the role of test managers here?
During our previous request for proposal, we structured the team composition that contained a test manager, and our potential client clarified if he needs a test manager on his project.
So it looks like the myth is true. Test managers are not needed on the project.
Well, so probably you're right, but just in some cases. frankly speaking, well, I would say it depends. So test managers probably are not needed on small-scale project with some simple setup, with 5-6 developers, 2-3 testers, one project manager. Everything is clear. Technologies are also well known, and the tool set is also known. So yes, in these cases, test managers are definitely not needed. But let's imagine the other story. Let's imagine the large-scale project consisting of multi-platforms with lots of integrations, lots of dependencies. Let's say where a number of, let's say, dozen of test teams is working in parallel, but on the same scope. And it's completely different story, right? And in such cases, test manager is definitely needed, I would say.
Yeah, but I heard a lot of thing around the managers. But what is the difference between the test managers and other kind of managers, like a project manager, for example?
Okay, I see your point. So, test manager is the key person who defines the test strategy. Project manager would rather do it, right? So I can't imagine project manager defining, thinking about test strategy in details. Also, test managers set up or unify testing processes across the teams and organizes on multi-teams. In multi-team setup, test manager helps to organize the coordination and collaboration between test teams. Also, test manager tracks the directions, the results of testing, and again, if you just passed through assessment made by our colleagues from quality architecture, so it's test manager who understands the direction of the improvement and is able to drive the change. Another point is that there are projects where only testing services are delivered to client. So I would not say it's a very frequent story, but still at EPAM we have some projects. And in such projects, test manager, it's definitely at the same time is also a project manager. And that means that all project management related activities like contracts, like service level agreements and many others, it's also on test manager shoulders.
Okay, but generally, test managers is only about the management. So you haven't done anything, just manage the team, manage the process, and manage your customer probably to make the project succeed. That is correct understanding?
Well, I really think it's not.
Yeah. Why?
Okay.
Yeah. Another example from an example guy. So, except some common managerial activities that Olga already mentioned, test manager, in my opinion, might quite naturally, for example, act as a technology consultant. On the laboratory project that I've already noted, the test team was divided into two streams because we have like two physical test stands located literally in different countries. And my colleague, test manager of one of the streams, and in addition, amateur photographer, at some point was involved as a subject matter expert to select a high-speed camera, which was used to determine positioning and movement accuracy of this sample holder. So also in case of large-scale setups, or for example, red zone project, test manager can, and in my opinion, actually should conduct regular audits of test processes and some solutions. So some time ago, another colleague just asked me to help with some configuring Jira to get like certain quality-related metrics. We got an initial set, spotted somewhat discrepancies in test coverage, and what started as a simple ask kind of ended as a full-blown disaster prevention saga that took several months to resolve, actually. And last moment here, that's a bit rare case, but test manager can even step into product owner's shoes. I think many of us, at least for some time, applied the principle, if you want a thing done well, do it yourself. So same happened to me and several colleagues who decided to develop another one-of-a-kind test automation tool. And when we started, I was quite skeptical about my coding skills at the moment, and thus I kind of focused on defining the vision, managing the backlog, tasks prioritization, so all this boring stuff, which de facto made me a product owner. And we actually managed to open source this tool, and currently is being used as a test automation accelerator on around like 40 plus projects from different business domains.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. That's really amazing seeing, but all of that stuff is related probably on the big companies. But what have you do to make yourself a test manager, and how to grow here? If you're working probably in a small product company, where is the limited number of project, and they are very the same, or even you have the only one. And what you have to do here? So you have to issue the challenge to your test manager and fight, win him in that fight to take him his place. How it should be? How you should go to test manager in such cases in the small companies?
Well, I mean, these are valid points, and honestly, I don't know. I mean, that's probably all that you mentioned. That's a benefits of big companies, and as you said, when you're in a small product-based company, it might be really difficult to grow professionally or simply change something to broaden your experience, for example, until your team lead suddenly wants to devote his or her life to, I don't know, brewing the best coffee in the world, or client decides to rewrite everything using trendy Go language because of reasons, So big companies, on the other hand, usually have multiple projects in their portfolio, and you can select the most interesting or suitable one. Thus, except like further development within the discipline, I mean, you test manager can join a program or portfolio level engagements or extend technological stack. Test manager can also try something else. For example, example with a project management role. I actually walked that path at some point. So being a test manager on the project, I voluntarily joined the internal performance initiative and focused on working like as an offshore team coordinator. And this allowed me to gain necessary background and then pass internal validation procedure, which is also called assessment. And officially become project manager. In this new role, I kind of planned and organized migration of around 300 websites through several PHP versions. However, at some point, I realized that I still want to maintain probably engineering part in my assignments, and this intention, kind of guidance from my manager and probably professional deformation, returned me back into the testing world. And again, that's a benefit of the big company. I'm not sure I would be able to do so in a small one.
More assessment for the assessment gap.
Okay, one small benefit. Yeah, one more small benefit for be working in big company. If once somehow you find more inspiring of working with talents rather than technologies or processes, so you have these talents in big companies. So it's welcome to the organizational roles. At the same time, being test manager in production, right? So it's big company where you can build the environment where talents want to be a part of, and welcome and try organizational roles like practice head or location testing head. So it's all possible in rather big companies.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we almost run out of time, and probably the last one question from our auditory about the needed of managers. What's about the maturity of the product managers and the team? Do you think it is impact the need of formal managers?
So couple comments from my side here. So I don't think it impacts the need of a formal manager. I think it impacts the life of this manager if it is present on the project, because the maturity of the project for sure dictates some of the principles that you need to apply, some of the techniques, things that you would discuss with the product or project management, things like that, approaches, all that. And it probably complicates, I would say, life of a test manager. As for the goal, I guess the goal of the project and the scale of the project, in my opinion, defines the need for a manager. That kind of corresponds to what Olga mentioned before.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I can add, if some.
Just very briefly.
Okay. Okay. So if the product team is really mature, so as Anton said, so test manager can apply some different managerial style. Yes, it can be really simpler to manage, but teams can be different, and the scale of project can be different. So one team can be mature enough, and one is not enough. So yeah, it's the complexity in the whole. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we run out of time, unfortunately. But I hope that we were able to destroy the most popular myths around the testing professional, and our speaker gave you more information about the different development options in testing for yourself. I want to say thank you for our speakers, want to say thank you for our amazing auditory, and thank you for our amazing moderators who can help us to manage that streams. Thank you all for being staying with us all the time. I wish you a good day, take care of yourself, and don't stop testing. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.